each one of you. On behalf of Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, we welcome you all for this first session on innovations and startups, a corporate perspective organized under the aegis of Startup Expert Committee of the Chamber. The session is organized under the aegis of Startup Committee, chaired by Dr. Lakshmi Jagannathan, who is the CEO of Derby Foundation, co-chaired by Mr. Vijeta Shastri, Associate Director, Dexter Capital Advisors, and Ms. Soumya Kushwaha, who is the CBO of Purple Petal Invest. The committee is mentored by Dr. Krishna Sri Achyutan, who is the CEO of Amrita Technology Business Incubator. On behalf of Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, we welcome today's speakers, Dr. Devarajan, who is our Senior Vice President and also the Senior Vice President of TVS Motor Company, and Mr. Prashant Gokhale, Managing Director, Bueller India Private Limited. Thank you very much, sir, for accepting our invitation to address at this session. We welcome Mr. Vineet Verma, who is our Vice President and who is the Director of Brigade Hospitality Services. Welcome for the session, sir. The Chamber acknowledges the support of our annual sponsors, Mrs. Bueller, Fundromax, MTR, SDMIMD, that is the Sri Dharmasthala Manjunatha Institute of Management Development, Sona Group, and Wipro for their support in sponsoring the events organized during the year. Now I hand over the platform to Dr. Lakshmi Jagannathan. Over to you, madam.
Thank you so much, Rupa. Good afternoon, everybody. Hearty welcome to the interesting panel discussion for today, and which is also a very hot topic in today's corporate world, innovation and startups. I think Steve Jobs very rightly said, innovation distinguishes a leader and a follower. This is a time-tested statement, and I think this will hold good for eternity. Corporate innovation is generally a strategic method which most of the corporate houses adopt for sourcing ideas, embracing new ideas, and selecting some ideas which can be scaled up so that they are able to retain and strengthen their market share over an extended period of time. This process also involves harmoniously merging the new disruptive ideas into the existing processes, and innovations can be homegrown from within the company or from outside as well. I think today's discussion will also throw a lot of insights on how these two corporate organizations source and also scale up innovations within their organizations. Today we have two eminent panel members, both accomplished veterans and leading organizations which are embodied in the culture of innovation. A brief introduction to both the companies and both these two accomplished individuals as well. TVS Motors is one of the largest two-wheeler and three-wheeler manufacturers in the world and very strongly invested in the thesis itself of future technologies and electric vehicles. It has evolved with times and has transformed itself into a digital age company which believes in connected, sustainable, and creating an electric brand. On the other hand, Bueller India is a subsidiary of the global conglomerate Bueller, a technology group and a global market leader in the food processing equipment, chemical processing engineering, and also die casting. Bueller India is primarily recognized as a leading supplier of equipment of multiple applications of the milling, color sorting, and few other applications. Indeed, I think today will be an interesting Jugalbandi, a duel of sorts between a homegrown multinational company and a global MNC with a presence in India. It is my pleasure to introduce both the panelists for today. Dr. Devarajan is a Senior Vice President, TVS Motors, has more than 4 decades of experience in TVS and has grown strongly from within the ranks and is a veteran to acknowledge in the automotive industry. A warm welcome to you, Dr. Devarajan. Mr. Prashant Gokhale is a Managing Director of Bueller India with decades of experience in senior management and leadership roles across multiple multinational companies. A warm welcome to you also, Mr. Gokhale. I think without much ado, let us get into the business. I'm sure all of us are interested in understanding more in deeper about how these two organizations look at both innovations and startups also. To start off, I think a brief introduction about how Indian automotive industry has evolved. I think This 2022 has been a phenomenal year for the automotive industry. It has also been a landmark in the year for the Indian automotive industry. It is recorded its highest growth rate of close to 16% and has become a force to be reckoned with on the global stage. Dr. Devarajan, first I would start with you.
Yes.
Now, in this role of a high growth trajectory, what would be the role of innovation in this industry at large? And what are the best innovative practices that TVS has adopted? Over to you, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. I'd like to share one of my slides.
Yeah, please.
Just one second. Are you able to see my
Yeah,
slide?
we are able to see your slide.
Okay. I think it's a very interesting topic. I thought I'll go a little bit methodically into this. I am from TVS Motor Company. We are the leading manufacturer of two-wheeler and three-wheeler, and it is a major thing is on automobile. The Indian GDP is growing, and the major contributor to this GDP is automobile sector. So mobility is life for all of us. So I'm talking from the mobility angle and probably touch more on manufacturing plus product engineering as we go forward through. One of the major positive things happening is the growth, along with which a lot of initiatives by the government, by Make in India, Skill India, many things. And in our company, we are grown from the Indian company itself. So we have got a lot of collaboration, earlier collaboration with Suzuki, but we're all on our own. Now we are working along with BMW, making BMW for the world over. So that is the context in which I've tried to work on. But things are happening, a lot of changes are happening in the entire industry towards the higher value-added products, environmental friendly products, smaller, durable, and it's going to be a continuous shift in manufacturing. Manufacturing include design and manufacturing in my case, because we have to design products which is higher value added, and of course on the environmental friendly, sustainable products. In terms of the innovation of manufacturing revolution, it has followed the industrial revolution itself. And today we are something between 3 to 3.5, probably in terms of our application of the systems. I'll come to the point which you're talking about. The reason I'm talking about this is a total shift in the customer. There's a shift in terms of the quality from percentage to zero defect in terms of the perceived value which you can give to the customer, and definitely on the on time and delivery. So we have to understand this as a basic requirement of automobile industry. What we do in TVS Motor, we normally used to have a continuous PDCA cycle. That is plan, do, check, act, and all the training of all the members in our company. We have shifted towards TIP PDCA. Whatever activity we do, we start with a target in mind, with a dream, have the image, and plan, do, check, and act. There is a shift in terms of understanding. This happening from the probably more than 10, 15 years. If you remember, our moped is almost like an LCV on the road. It's called moped, but it almost carries like a lorry. Similarly, scooty is like for the women folk, much more robust two-wheeler. Now, electrical vehicle, which has got a higher safety aspects, what we see. Everything depends upon the dream which the company has towards mobility of life. So continuous training in terms of the quality aspects of TQM, TPM, lean, JIT, all towards the plan, do, check, act, all towards the TPDCA. So this training is happening continuously. Second thing is we have a integrated model because we have to work together. It's not only top management or executives. Every level in terms of staff, supervisor, executive, top management. If you see this graph between the position and the share of responsibility, the breakthrough is a topmost requirement of the top management. Okay, and then come to executives and supervisors and staff and workmen. This we follow very, very rigorously in our company. So that's one area in which, whether it's the product development in terms of the EV, OBD systems, in terms of our Apache system, in terms of the new product development, this is the major area. I'll come to the examples a little bit later, but I'll try to understand the overall method which you are trying to do in, if you call it as a Indian company. But what's happening is we try to bring in different concepts and try to implement. That is TPM implementation, lean implementation, TQM implementation, QFSS implementation, and so on and so forth. So again, I'm talking about the three levels in terms of the retainment, improvement, and breakthrough. We apply a lot of TRIS, the theory of inventive problem solving. That is, we have a very detailed approach on capturing the innovation through patents, the specific problems taken to the general problems, which is the general solutions are available, and the general solutions try to apply to the specific solutions. Among 40 different contradictory principles are there of problem solving. This is the focus area of our area. Second thing is we also spend a lot of time with the customer. We have everyone has to spend time with the customer to understand the customer is the key for us. So the value added products for the customer, the problems which is facing to the customer. So we don't follow through the competition. We follow what the customer wants. So the change is towards training of our people, involvement of our people, application of the TPM, TQM, and the QFSS procedures, and of course on application of the TRIS. And we continuously benchmark the best in the industry, try to adopt and implement the entire area of this thing. So what we find is customer value. Customer value is definitely at every stage, at the discovery stage of understanding with the customer, where we go and spend time with the customer in area, designing, developing, delivering, and in terms of the redefining. So it's a continuous journey. I'll try to bring in some of the examples as we go follow through, but I wanted to bring a picture that definitely in terms of the new startups, in terms of our own startups, in fact, all the engineers in our company are all startups. So that's the way we try to work. Probably I'll go through next as we go understand the further testing. Okay, thanks.
I think you'll have to
unshare. Yeah.
Share, yes.
Yeah, 1 minute. Sorry, yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Devarajan. I think it's been insightful. I think important takeaway one is more on the TRIS. I wish there was more time to go in depth about. You were talking about theory of inventive problem solving. I think TVS is a company which is iconic for TQM and TPM practices.
Yes.
And of course, the continuous benchmarking, what you were talking about. I think we will probably come back and go in depth again.
Yeah.
I think next moving on to Mr. Prashant. I think Bueller's tagline is innovations for a better world. So I think no better description of the ethos and the philosophy of Bueller itself. And Bueller firmly believes in accelerating innovation and believes that accelerating innovation is a very key pillar for Bueller's strategy itself. Mr. Prashant, we would like to understand some of the best practices that Bueller has globally adopted and how either some of these practices have either been adopted in India or adapted to suit the Indian needs. Yeah, over to you, Mr. Prashant.
Thank you very much, BCIC, and special thanks to Dr. Lakshmi for this opportunity. As you rightly said, our vision statement itself, global vision statement itself, is innovation for better world. So we don't have to talk in the organization what innovation is, because the top statement of anybody and everybody walk into the Bueller offices, first we see innovation for better world. And it is not something we just want to say, we walk the talk. 5% of our revenue globally, what we generate, we spent on innovation. Really, and not a profit, 5% of revenue what we generate around 3 to 3.5 billion, depending upon pre-COVID, post-COVID, in COVID, whatever we call, at least 5% globally we spent on innovation. So it is important is that innovation is getting into the genes and it gets into the culture. And it is important when you talk about the innovation. I was very rightly, Dr. Devarajan said that you understand from the customers their needs. And here, being the global organization, we start looking into the what are the trends happening globally. One is in the food, feed, mobility segment. We are also into the mobility segment, so we see what are the trends happening globally, and then start working on them at the various levels. Uh, One at the corporate side of it, one we have it at the top down, and one become the bottom up. And bottom up approach I like the most because we run at least once in every 2 years innovation competition across the globe. And that innovation competition, everybody and anybody in this organization is free to register and then make a small group and then throw the idea in terms of how he or she looks into the innovation in the specific area. And then actually we run this as a competition. And we are doing it for last 12 years, this as a competition. So one, you see from the trend and from the corporate technology side become top down, and one is the bottom up, what the organization or the our employees in the organization see from the bottom up. And many times we see that those things start merging together, and when it starts merging together, it really talks about a culture. We are not talking somebody sitting in ivory tower talking about innovation is a better world is a tagline. It is not the case. People also start feeling it because as I said that people see what innovation are happening. Today if I say that what exactly what we do, uh, sustainability is a topic. It's not only the buzzword, but it is an absolute serious topic, and each one of us should take this seriously. There is nobody can be spared into that. Oh, I'm in that industry, I'm in this industry. It is not the case. Everybody is into that, and everybody should take it. And what we are doing it at the moment, we have taken a target of reduction of energy, water, and waste by 50% in the customer value chain, not necessarily in the Bueller operations or Bueller factories or Bueller surrounding, but we talk about our customers' value chain. And our customer value chain means 4.5 billion people have been fed by our customers. More than 1 billion people have been moved from point A to point B through our technologies. We are not the TVS, we are not in automotive, but there are technologies which goes into the parts into the automotive sector in terms of electromobility, in terms of high pressure die casting parts or coating or paint and so on. So we talk about that, and it is not something only from the top down. Anything and everything we do in the organization, if anybody wants to have that share of 5% to do that R&D project, first somebody has to come and prove how you are working towards one of those three things to target on sustainability. And we are very proud that there are many processes what has been evolved in last few years. We started seeing the difference somewhere 10%, 20%, 30% reduction in maybe energy or maybe the water or maybe the yields have gone up. So it has started happening. It's not one day to other you make 50%, and that is not the expectation. But if you start talking about it, I'm sure one day we'll reach there. And so my point to say is that it just become a culture. And then how you drive that culture is extremely important. Second thing, all of each one of us today know it, the proteins and the requirement of proteins is a big topic globally. We know the protein comes, primary source of protein comes from vegetables. Being the Indians, we know what does it mean vegetable proteins, but that is not the only the truth. If you are in the Western world, majority of the protein comes from the animal side. And we know that when we talk sustainability and protein, these are the big two topics and they work actually hand in hand. How much actually the land is available, how much is the land available, you grow the crop, do you grow the crop for the human being or you grow the crop for the animals, and the animals how much you emit. So all those things are happening, and then you see that what is the best sustainable way you produce a protein. So again sustainability is on top, and then we start deriving all those areas there. Last but not least, when we want to start working on a innovation, not necessarily Bueller and our experts know everything. There is no way that everybody knows everything. So what we started, and we started very recently, maybe I would say in last 3 to 4 years, we started collaborating with partners. We started cooperating with partners, even some of the competitors also. This is not new. This is not new, but in this industry it is new. If I say that maybe uh, when something we know how to do it, we do it ourselves. But there are many things you don't want to. You don't have that expertise. Then you find your right partners. You find your right partners to collaborate, because time to market is important here. It is not something, this is the organization where we take the academic project and work on 3, 4, 5 years because somebody said 5% of the money has been spent on R&D. That is not the way. You have to see that how you can make that point available for our customers and in their value chain. And that is something is embedded in the organization now. Innovation is absolutely embedded in the organization. And now I also hear from Dr. Lakshmi, she mentioned about the global side of it and the local. It is extremely important because it is not, we are into a grains and food business, for example. So there, it is not that we just follow what is being done into the Western world. Then we see that how we can develop those technologies and the processes suitable for the Indian palate, Indian conditions, Indian food habits, and then you start innovating those things. And the beauty, what happens if you do something over here, if you find a solution for those challenges over here, there is a possibility you multiply them globally, not necessary for the same commodity, but you take that example and then multiply it somewhere else with some adaptations. And that just become a beauty of the global organization being 140 countries presence. We hear something happen in Brazil, and then our guys in technology and things start understanding how do I adapt those things. I have this specific requirement of the Indian customers for this specific taste, texture, and the I would say that the cooking quality or maybe the food habits. How do I start multiplying those? And that has started happening. So as I said, innovation is not something away from us as a business. Business is a primary responsibility. At the same time, innovation will only drive the business. And it is for sure everybody of this organization of 12,000 employees working globally and over 1,000 guys working all across over here knows what does it mean for innovation. And then it's not something you drive the market leadership. That is the point in the business. It is absolute a prime responsibility. But if you start doing something this innovation and looking your customers in mind and your partners as your supply partners, vendors in mind, then business just start flowing in. You don't have to go behind the business. Business starts coming in because then your purpose is far better, far longer and far wider. So I always believe the innovation has to be there together with a purpose. There is no way innovation and purpose you keep it separate. And we are actually blessed to be in an organization where the purpose is on the top and we are all driving towards that same purpose in terms of innovation. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. No, very insightful. I think amazing that your company is committed to 5% of the global revenue on innovation. I think some of the key takeaway from you was in terms of, see, collaborating with competition. No, I mean, how many organizations really think about collaboration with competitors and make sure that the time to market is achieved within the specified time frame? One thing I understood from both of you is how to be innovative and also how to be very extremely customer centric. I think that is the core of any organization's existence, in terms of being customer centric and scaling up. I think that takes me obviously to the next part of the conversation, which is about the startups. I think India is among the third largest startup ecosystem in the world and home to more than 100 unicorns, especially in the tech space, which is both the sectors, which both of you represent. Incidentally, both of you also represent EV in some form, and also the food and agri. Phenomenal growth in these areas. I think first I would like to address Dr. Devarajan, especially in EV space. There's an exponential growth in startups. In fact, about 43 startups in the EV space in this year alone have raised about $673 million in funding. So there's a phenomenal spurt in the growth of EV. TVS Motors as a company itself, I think two clear cases stand out. No, one is the majority stakeholding investment which TVS has done in DriveX, the two-wheeler platform, owned by Narayan Karthikeyan. Other one is also the investment which they have done in Ultraviolet Automotive, which is a Bangalore-based EV. So apart from these one or two cases which we get to read in the media, right? Broadly, I want to understand what is the philosophy that TVS has towards startups itself, broadly. Yep. Because there are many startups who look forward to support, insights, a lot of things, especially EV is a very capital intensive business, right? For startups to really scale up and grow. So they really look forward for support or some sort of a thing from corporates as well. So we want to understand more on that, Dr. Devarajan.
Okay. It's a big topic by itself. Again, I'd like to share my slides. Just a minute, I'll try to. You're able to see my slide?
Yeah, yeah, we are able to see.
Yeah, sorry, I'll try to. No, I started with this slide earlier, and definitely in many of our EV products, we are trying to do many research work internally, and this has happened over more than 10 years back, where we had the EV startup in our own company and working along with it. In terms of the starting application of all these things, there are so many opportunities in automobile industry. So starting with the EV in which we are trying to work, there's a threat. There's a change in the overall industry itself in terms of the miniaturization, commonization, standardization across in our industry. And definitely in terms of the cost reduction, the big exercise of lightweighting in our area, in terms of the combination of electronics into our products, especially onboard dynamic. That many things are data from the system itself. And if you go to our vehicle today, in terms of the iQube, all the GPS system is inside the vehicle itself. All the electronics, as you see in the cell phones, are coming into the two-wheeler. So a lot of electronics is the major shift happening in our industry. Similarly, in terms of the India is getting younger. The color change, the requirement of new models of Apache, for example, you can select your own, the position of the vehicle, all the things, how we can do faster, how you can do in terms of delivery to the customer as what they need is a major change happening in our industry. So if you take is the overall triangular approach, what we're trying to do, there's a requirement from the in terms of the model going up, the volume going up heavily. At the other side of it, we have a cost reduction and how you can make the customer requirement. But can you make a first mover example itself? Can we start internally and showcase it? Can we have the pain points which is inside the company, outside the company? I talked about the customer. Customer is inside the company also. In terms of the operator, can we improve the ergonomics of the operator? Can you reduce the paperwork? Can you reduce the lead time for ordering? So that's a way. And then definitely on the new technology. There is a continuous threat in terms of the VUCA world. So the challenges is in a continuous way itself. So we follow this triangle approach. In any areas, what is the area in which is pushing through? What is the area in which you are trying to get what we need? Is a simple approach of what we are trying to do. And of course, a lot of applications on startups came in. I'll try to example some of the examples that tell you how we worked, how we did not work.
Yeah.
One thing came up during COVID is the maximum application of innovation, maximum. In terms of the cameras for checking the safe distances, wearing masks, buzzers if they're not following, because we have to produce at the same time follow all the what safety of the operators. That was a huge amount of changes happening. We had startups as well as we had internal startups. We had so many new applications came in. So that's the first starting point. Second thing came up is on the traceability. So any product we do to continue get the quality level up, the data on each and every operator who's doing the work, the processes which has been followed, the output which can be monitored, any problem happens in the field, how we can trace back. That is a major change happening in the entire industry today. Okay, so that is the area in which we are trying to work with startups. We are working with internal area. We are working with digital. You name it, because finally it has to ensure that we have the best in terms of the quality and ensure that the consistency is made. And third thing which came up is on the machine availability. In terms of sensors in all our machines, in TVS Motor Company, we are 100 years old, we are 40 years old in India itself. Many are old machines, many are new machines. How you can get data from the machines to ensure the OEE or the availability of the equipment, quality of the equipment, and consistency of the output is maintained. We monitor OEE. We have data transparency across in our area for data capturing. Another area of successfully worked is on logistics. In terms of the ergonomics of the operator himself, the JIT supply, ensure that the transport from the supplier to our end, store raw material stores, reduce the inventory. And of course, in the material handling, automatic guided vehicles, the factory is full of digital applications today. Whatever I'm saying is not end all because there's so many applications we have just started. So if you just go in through from the customer angle, from the dispatch of the vehicle to the manufacturing of the vehicle to the supplier to the sub supplier to the raw material, that's the area we are trying to work on the startups and digital. And some areas successful are in terms of the vision system, paint application, because paint is the most important thing for us. How you can have defect-free product. So we have introduced a vision system to have 100% check around 91% successful is there in that. Automatic pick and place of the components because of agility, flexibility, lean manufacturing is another area. And in terms of the OE, I just mentioned, and a lot of AGVs we have developed here. We are working with the startups. We are also making our own AGVs, automatic guided vehicles inside our factory. One thing I found is it is not just ordering on someone with a problem. We have to participate in it. So that's the area in which I'll carry forward some areas. Some areas were not successful. We're still in proof of concept. In terms of we want to do the identification of the component which goes outside India, but still a lot of tag out was there, time taking. We export to something like 90 countries, and the cycle time also is a little bit low. So that's the area where we're still pushing in terms of the traceability outside India. And sometimes we want to have software which are not able to develop. There's no continuity of people in the people the startups who are working. They come and do and may not continue. So there are issues in which we are working in a continuous way. But it is I feel working with a startup is a continuous journey, which probably I'll try to go next time after we had some further view from Gokhale. I'll have to come back into what I call it as a mantra in terms of in TVS Motor. I hope
Sure.
I stop with that. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. I think I have a question. Probably come back to you again, sir. Ms. Berkeley, I think two things. One is when I was also doing my homework for this panel itself. I think one interesting observation I also noticed was that Bueller, as you earlier on mentioned all about sustainability and your support to food providers, who are working on solutions for building sustainability. It was also mentioned about this plant-based meat, which is also supported as a big initiative from Bueller. So can you please throw more light on that?
Yes, definitely. The plant-based protein, what
Yeah.
we talk about, or the meat substitute. Initially, I thought that this is something not for us in this country because we eat at least once or twice pulses in our meal. So nobody has to come and tell us there is a plant-based meat available for us in this country. But that is not the case. Globally, the highest money flows from the startup into the plant-based meat substitutes. And we are there because we are into the primary processing of pulses, and then we have the technologies where you can get those textures, because eventually there are two things when we talk about the staple food. It is not something the appearance matter a lot, but eventually it is a taste and the texture. These are the two things matter into any food or any staple food. When it comes to the plant-based meat, it is good. You can use various type of proteins, from pea protein, soya protein, algae protein, etc., etc. But eventually, if that does not taste is another story. You can add the flavors and get it done. but that texture doesn't suit like a meat texture, nobody will touch that product. Nobody will touch that product, we know. So the basic innovation or basic research happens to be how do you get to those textures. And there's few things Bueller is doing by ourselves, few things we found the partners, and the entire value chain of these pulses protein side from the primary processing to this. There are concentrates and isolates you have to create where you have the very high percentage of proteins you extract out of it. There we join hands with our partners and the areas what I was mentioning about when you do the partnership with others, and these are the areas we do it. Coming back to the startups, what we do basically with startups. Startup is very integral part of our whole, I would say, the ecosystem. We have a big startup, uh, not only scouting, but the team in Switzerland, our parent company, and we replicate that in a smaller way in India. So what we do in India, we try to scout the startups, the various startups what are there into our own domain areas. We go through it, we scrutinize them, and then the relevant ones, what we find the relevant ones, we ask them to just talk to us and just, I don't say pitch in the idea. So it is not the idea of the funding or something, but just to understand what solution is, because many times unless you understand and ask questions, many good ideas may get evaporated in the air. So we spend quite a good amount of time to understand. And when we say that it makes sense in our value chain where we operate, we see it mainly for our customers. So we keep the startups into three verticals in mind. One, how do we leverage this technology or a concept to our customers? Because many times our customers, they don't have the access to the startups, and startups, they don't have the exposure to the vast customer base what we have India as well as globally. So we actually throw them out to our global partners as well. When we really see that these startups really make sense into our entire value chain, we get some of our business managers from the global organizations and be part of that discussion so that they also understand. So they multiply those into their markets wherever it is globally it is required. So this is one. So primary focus for us a startup is how do you give them the exposure to your vast customer base, and customers with their needs, how do they have the access to the startups? So this is a primary thing we do it. Second thing would clearly, is there anything which is adjacent to what we are doing already? Either we partner or we make the, I don't say we buy them. Buy them becomes the last one, but that is not the primary intention. Intention is that how do we collaborate with them? And then, as I said, that some of the areas where you are not there, you can speed up your innovation by partnering with those startups. And third thing, interestingly, some of the startups become our customers. And we have to it just become the circular thing. It's not something we look into the startup. Sometimes those startups become our customers because they have some specific needs where you may have a solution. Or even we have this in my background, you see a picture of the glass. This is our application center. We give that application center to them, to some of the startups, and tell them, you play. If you want to play something there, this is your playground, because not everybody has the access at that moment to get that done at that point of time. We also have over here the analytical center where we do a basic analysis on the grain, on the grain side or into a powder side, maybe chemical, physical, microscopic things. So we open up them and say, okay, if you feel something can be done, we are there to support you. So idea is over here is that you have to look into that as as the solution provider into the space where you are playing, and then the customer should get access what is happening into the startup world, and startup world or the convenient one should also get the exposure or the access to the customer what they have. So our job is to make the vehicle to bring the startups and customers in line, and that is the primary focus we do, at least in India. Then we also see that these startups also make sense for the global scaling up. And then we have this, as I said, that we have a complete cell unit working in Switzerland on the startup, because globally they have to look into it, and we play a bit role what we can do from here. We know there are many things happening into agricultural side, food side, even into the material transformation side, a lot of things, even into warehousing, digitalization, all those things are happening. And then sometimes we just give them the advice. If we know something in that, not necessarily we know everything in that, but sometimes so that you give them your piece of advice, what you have learned over the years with your customers, and see that how do we leverage that to our customers. So this is what we basically do in the startup engagement over here.
Great, great. So earlier on, you were also mentioning about fostering innovation as a top-down approach, bottom-up, both, and maybe there's a merger also at some point of time, right? Any one instance, can you remember of a specific innovation which also led to a startup? Because you also scout for startups, you know, I mean, on the ground through competitions, innovation contests, and things like that. And one of them which allied to your strategic initiatives, also what you wanted to do. Anything that you could recall?
No, there are quite a few. If I say that we are in a country where I just give example of a wheat flour. Okay, the
Okay.
Bueller is the core technology globally is into a wheat flour, one of the technologies and the largest business. In India, how much is a wheat flour and how much is the whole wheat flour? Whole wheat flour we call atta, and the wheat flour is in simple term is maida.
Maida.
These are two different characteristics. It's not something it looks same particle, it looks feel same. It's not, as I said, it just become more to the texture and the sensory properties. And those actually started from the bottom up in the organization, how you get into that whole wheat flour, and as well as from the top down when it comes into technologies. And today we are successful in getting into the whole wheat flour, where the Bueller Technologies globally lies into the flour mills. In India, we are successful in doing business into whole wheat flour. Two different technologies, two different processes, two different equipment required to do that. But the same philosophy started coming from the organization, because this is what our whole India is eating, which we did not have much knowledge sitting in Switzerland what this commodity is. And that is the reason I said bottom up and the top down start working together.
Sure, sir. Sure. Yeah. Thank you. I think if the audience have any questions, I request you to please post them in the chat box as we come toward the almost the third part of the panel discussion. I think if I would request, you would start with Dr. Devarajan again. If there are, so because startups, you know, especially as I said early on, EV being a huge capital intensive or any of the so-called product-based startups, there's always huge struggle, right? So what are the three mantras if you feel you should startup should at least try to adopt, follow? Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. I think I come from the customer angle, I come from the manufacturing. Both angle I'll start. So
Yeah,
I'll try to
please.
share again. You able to see?
Yeah, we are able to see.
Okay. See, I always start from our company angle, and then I'll come to what startups should do. The one is in all our areas, must do. We have some 8 or 9 points which I normally follow through. Is our own involvement. If you have any idea if which to be successful in our processes or in product, we put along with one more process expert to give awareness of the process or application, so that it will give you an overall picture to the startup team. We follow the QA system in terms of the FMEA for all with all the integral, especially startup members, all precautions on failures. Because what's happening is our industry is a high volume industry. Sorry. Yeah, high volume industry. We make something like every vehicle in 23 seconds, 24 seconds, like that. So we need to ensure the reliability of what we do. We can't just apply one and say, okay, it goes to the customer. And definitely we can't take customer as the ground for us to test our products. So we have to do a thorough test, and we have a extremely rigorous FMEA system, failure mode assurance system. Definitely we follow it in a very, very systematic way, and make a detailed functional requirement sheet, FRS we call it. So we have a detailed FRS along with the stakeholders, internal stakeholders, the target applications, the customer in mind, and also analyze how we can scale up. If successful is there, how we can scale up some of the products, how we can do, and how we can sustain. In many areas, we try to do 7M conditions in area. 7M conditions in whatever we do in terms of material, method, manufacturing costs, material handling, measurements, and we have added Mother Nature, which gives you ensure that energy, efficiency, ergonomics is taken into consideration. Now we are trying to add circular economy into it. Can you have 100% recyclability about it? Can you get back into a product? So we are trying to add many of our learning. So that's one more areas of area. And definitely we do a POC, the proof of concept, before we scale up, verify the POC analysis, and definitely capital is scarce in India. We don't have much of fund, so we need to say how to use existing one, force ourselves through sometimes, bring it to different areas, quality and completeness. Now, what's happening in automobile industry is QCD, quality cost delivery was now it is becoming QCT, quality cost timeliness, time to market, time to deliver, time to what customer wants. Because if the time is not there, we miss the bus. We lose the entire the customer goes. There are so many, like what you said, there are 53 startups in EV itself. If you're not able to do on timing, not able to do on the quality, we may lose the business itself. And gradually increase the work content, scale up, and don't celebrate success too early. There are many successes we'll get. So we wait, see that it is sustained, and then only we do, and try to do patenting and other areas in that portion. So there are four areas. One is the requirements itself, our own understanding of the requirements of the product. We discuss along with the customer, along with the startups themselves. This is the requirements matching cycle. So we discuss very detail into it. Second of the four sector is collaboration. Some ideas we know, some ideas we collaborate, some ideas we get or understand the overall requirements and have localization of some of the elements which you do, which you be able to produce in a consistent way. This is a collaboration cycle. Third thing which we do is monitoring. We just don't leave it for chance. We ensure that we have a periodic review, hands-on along with startup, internal startups or improvements. We have something called the Q. I'll come back to that point. So a lot of meticulous planning and monitoring is the area where we find it is important. And of course, scaling up. Once it is there, implement and then scaling up. So we have a structured way in which we do. And not only that, we're trying to bring into like what I talked about, involvement of all people, top management executives again. This area in which very, very particular that we follow and ensure that every area from the operator on QCC and improvement in the engineer area and the cross-functional requirement and task force, we all bring it under the TQM umbrella. So it is not that we are doing exclusively startups or anything. We have to ensure that all the areas towards productivity, all the areas to the new product development, all the areas are all involved work. So it is in TVS especially we have a lot of interaction. So startups discussing with us. We have also taken over many startups in our area. We have a TVS Digital in Singapore. So it's a continuous journey across the entire TVS group. And we strongly feel that innovation is a journey. We just started. And it is only a start button. Once like what Prashant did say, once you start, there is no end. There's so much of activities can be done and every area there is innovation possible. And we have just touched the starting point.
Great, sir. Great. Sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm also tempted to ask you a follow-on question. You've been constantly talking about internal startups. So can we really understand what are these internal startups that you've been mentioning, sir?
No, what's happening is all the new areas in terms of the QCC sedition scheme, in terms of the cross-functional teams, all are in terms of innovation. Okay, innovation in terms of understanding and bringing new. So we should have the mindset of startup. In the sense, we don't have much capital. Can we use the best available capital? Can we break through? Why you want to follow the same system, follow 10 years, break the through? So all the things are the mindset set in into our own area, set in on our engineers. All are fresh engineers, all are different engineers. So we have that mindset of startup. The TV is a big company. Can we believe and work as a small company in terms of the requirement of what is to the customer? Each one is a customer to us. So that type of understanding, we call it internal startup. However, we are working with suppliers, we work with the external startups in a similar way. That's why I said we participate along with them. So there are breakthroughs coming in this way because in terms of the processes, in terms of the heat dissipation in a battery, anything you take, there are new ideas coming in and there is no end to the new ideas from all the people. So that's why we call it an integrated approach. involved approach of all the people. And that's why I always said, why do we call it the internal startup itself? Yeah. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Thank you. I think, Dr. Prashant, from you, I mean, earlier also you mentioned about very key important things, like collaborating with competitors. It was really, I mean, out of the box thing, and time to market very critical. Some more mantras you would want to give for the startups in terms of how they would raise, specifically working with corporates, because agri-tech, food tech, both are big emerging areas even for startups. So many startups are really lost at how do they reach out to their corporates, how to work with corporates.
Yeah, okay. I don't qualify myself to give any mantras, but at least I try to share
Yeah,
something
please.
what I feel relevant. If
Yeah.
you are into a B2B segment, then understand your customer and even more understand customer's customer. Many times we miss that boat to understand the customer's customer because we only keep the customer in mind. Second, the big topic is that do we know the entire ecosystem where you want to play? Or I have this solution, I got this solution, and I'm happy in just looking at that. And we have to see that how it fits into the entire ecosystem. And if you start looking at that as an entire ecosystem in mind, if it is a grain or it is a food or the packaged food or anything, how is it there fit that into an entire ecosystem? How the value chain works when the crop is coming out of the field till it goes to the processing unit, then it goes to the distribution, where this solution fits and how it will make a benefit to the end customers. Time to market, I echo what you said, Dr. Devarajan. Time to market is absolutely key. And for me, keep it simple. Don't keep it complicated. We like to keep the innovation so complicated. Keep it simple because keeping it simple is itself is difficult, I know. And don't hesitate to ask for help. Ask for help. There are enough places we can get a help. There are academias are there. There institutions are there. There is enough knowledge available around. Ask for help. Because if we don't ask for help, it takes longer time for us to really get out of it, and it takes longer time to reach into the market. So time to market is the key. And this is what we have to see. There is no hesitancy of asking for help if you really want to have things to get it done on time. So these are 3, 4 things I perceive. It is important because we always get into our own area, not really thinking little outside. We are so happy with if we get some innovation in terms of technical or technological innovation, but this is one part of it. If it does not make any business sense, nobody will look into that. We are not talking about the university project or when anybody does a graduation or a doctorate. We are not talking a university project. We are talking an industrial project which has to make a business sense. If that doesn't make a business sense, let us not talk about the organization as a startup. We can say that, okay, we like to do as a geeks, want to innovate something. Let us keep it at that.
Great, sir. Great. Yeah. Thank you. Bang on. Thank you so much. I think we are well on time. There's only one question from Mr. Rajaram Rao. Do you want to mute yourself and ask a question? Rupa, can this gentleman mute himself and ask a question?
Yes, he can do.
If not, the question is already written onto the chat box.
Yeah, question is there. But the question is not very much relevant to the session as such. The question is more on HR tech platforms, in terms of hiring right talent and engaging them better. So
It
what
is
is your
happening.
perception on-
It is happening today. Believe me, it is happening. And the second question is also relevant. It is also happening. There are startups who are looking into the experienced, even retired people.
Absolutely.
Even retired people who would like to do something and not to be engaged fully into the on the daily basis or not to have a commitment on a monthly basis, maybe a week in a month or maybe a few hours in a week. They really want to contribute and they don't know that nobody can reach to them. They don't reach to the other side of it. So there are startups happening today. I know quite a few of them because we also started engaging, and that is a very good idea to bring in the
Yeah.
experts,
Yeah.
retired experts, because they are wealth of the knowledge. Knowledge
Yes.
is absolutely available there. And then at that time, believe me, their clear intention is that how do I give it back to the society? Is the intention at that point. So it's not that I'm not saying it is a free something, but the cause purpose itself is different at that time. So it is excellent to get those experienced guys, even retired, and see that how you can use that. Many times we stuck to a problem and start looking at the solution. Reach to these guys, they have a solution offhand because they have gone through it in the past.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. I think there's another question by Panchajanyam. How do organizations plan fund requirements either for internal startups or external? Dr. Devarajan, you want to take this?
Yeah, I'll take that. So what we normally do is based on the paid areas, based on the applicability areas, each one is a project. So we checked out the benefit in an initial stage, and there is a special separate fund for those things also, if any new ideas are coming into. So we normally say that each one is taken as a business case and talked about in detail, and involved discussion taking place. So fund is not a problem, but also a problem. So we need to ensure it is properly analyzed and then justified. And each one is taken as a case by case basis. And definitely there is a real requirement of more and more funds requirement, because POC we need to make, and we need to ensure that the points are understood very clearly. So we have a separate thing on POC. First, do proof of concept in one of the areas, and then based on the results of the proof, sometimes it may not work, sometimes it might work. Based on the results of the proof of concept, based on the applicability what we have, we justify the requirement to the entire company. So it's in two stages. One, understanding of the requirements. Two, if it is a POC, the functional requirement system is very clearly mentioned and worked on it, and ensure that the funds are available. Only after the POC is clear or complete in terms of our requirements, in terms of the deliverable of it, we go into the bigger case. The reason I'm mentioning is even in a larger basis, some of the very, very new idea, extremely good idea, if it is not what you call monitored properly, detailed into properly, tested out properly, we can't give it to the customer. Finally, we are giving to the customer. There are many things we can do internally. There are at least 7 or 8 new things which has been done in our company, but still not released, because we want to ensure the durability of it, the reliability of it consistently. That's going to be the crucial thing for us. It is not just starting, making it happen and leave it. No, it has to, because our vehicles are used by the customer for life. So we need to ensure that we give the best to the customer. Similarly, in the process also, we need to ensure safety, sustainability is the key area. So it is both joint effort. I think there are pressures in which you need to faster. There are areas in which go into detail. So it's a combination of both. Go into detail, but it is absolutely essential that we can't give away to what the customer wants, whether internal customer or outside, external customer, and ensure that it is sustained over the period of time. That's the way we look at it, not only the funds.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Ms. Prashant, you want to add anything to that?
Not really, but one thing, if the organization, if you have to really be innovative, how many times we have dare or courage to fail, and how many times we allow the people to do the experiments.
Correct.
Funds is one, and if you say that this is a fund and this is what you do, and then I ask you a question every day, how you utilize, and I don't give you the permission to fail,
Perfect.
then we don't call this as the innovation, we don't call this as an innovative organization. How much you have a courage to fail, how many experiments you do is only will tell you how innovative you are as the organization and as the team.
Yeah, and even when you do the POC, many things may not work, but we have to work together to see how it is taken. I think it is a lot of learning comes from POC which has not worked.
Correct. That's
So,
true.
and how quickly we can bring that. And one more thing we found is some of the POCs which we worked 3 years back, and today some of the things are coming back into action. We are able to implement. So the situation where we do the requirements, what we are trying to do, it is none of the experiments failed is failed for life. We can bring it back. We can ensure that it is. So it's a journey of learning and application.
Absolutely. I think one last question is Ravi Chellu has raised his hand. Ravi, can you please unmute yourself and talk?
It's not a question really. I just wanted to answer Mr. Rajaram Rao. also in HR, see, HR ops has already been solved. There's enough work done there and enough solutions available. But the more hairy problems are recruitment, hiring, and interviewing, which is where a lot of innovation is happening. And in fact, today, if you look at SaaS companies desperately need inside salespeople. And the requirement is in tens of thousands. It's not in hundreds, tens of thousands. So companies are applying AI, ML out there to solve the hiring problem. So if Rajan, your interest is to build a solution, look at the hiring area, look at the engagement area. So a lot of companies have an issue in the first 90 days to keep the employee engaged. And there is really no organized solution available there. It's mostly seat of the pant management. Just wanted to add that.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I think one last question from Mr. Panchajam again. Do you outsource any requirements in relation to evaluation of startup proposals? Is it done in-house or some outside agency handles your whole startup process?
I answer in 10 seconds. We hire the agency to do the scouting for us. And then the evaluation happens later on.
Yeah, great. Okay. Sure. I think we have come to an end of an interesting discussion. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, both of you, for your time and the candid conversation. You had a lot of insights. Thank you so much.
I'll take 2 minutes, sir. Thank you very much for making it convenient to address at this session. We would like to play a small thank you video. Please do stay with us, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you once again.
Thank you very
all
much.
the
Thank you.
participants.
Thank you, Rupa. Thank you, everyone.